Okay, today we're going to discuss the book Cecily Tyson, Just As I Am. Cecily Tyson, Just As I Am is the book cover. And hopefully you all can see that real good. Okay. All right. So I just want to start off with the introduction part. Um, she stated that she never intended on writing an autobiography. Her manager, Larry Thompson, asked her about writing a memoir, and he said to her, "It's time." And because everybody think that they know who Cecily Tyson is, but we don't know about her roots. We know the book, the movies that she's portrayed over the years, but we don't know about her and about her roots. That conversation is actually what planted the seed for the book Just As I Am. And in this book, she is being plain, and just raw and just without all the glitz and the glam. And I am so happy that she did write this book. She always told people she wasn't going to write a book. She's like, no, I don't want to write a book. She just really wasn't into it. Thank God for Larry Thompson that told her to go ahead and persuaded her to write this book. Um, my first question is, how did Miss Cecily Tyson decide whether she would take a specific role or not? How did she decide whether she would take a specific role or not? I'll just answer that since no one knows the answer. Okay, it was on page 3, and she stated, "I know instantly whether I should take a role if my skin tingles as I read the script. Then it is absolutely something I must do. But if my stomach churns, I do not touch the project because if I did, I end up on a psychiatric couch or psychiatrist's couch." So I thought that was really unique because, sometimes we want to know, how do you know which role to pick? Because a lot of times, agents and managers, they're constantly sending you scripts. And it's up to you to decide if you want to do it. They can, say, oh, you should do it, but it's up to you to say yes or no. So I just want to say that I thought that was very unique with her stating that, you know, she had to feel something within in order for her to take on a project. So yeah, that was something that I wanted to kind of let the people know about.
I think that's
What's
really interesting because I have noticed that in my life, if my skin tingles, I also know that's a sign that I need to do something. So I can relate to that.
Yeah, I feel like we all get like a feeling in the inside, like, I mean, not we all, but you feel something in you saying, you know what, it pushes you forward, and you should go within. Like I can say, even for when the book club, just doing this, I constantly said no, 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 no.
Mhm.
But something at in 2019, after I had been through a lot medically, and I just said it's time, I can't say no no more. I just felt it was something that I should go ahead and do. And I got on my good foot and started running and ain't stopped running yet. So anybody else want to say something about that?
No,
Okay.
but she also said she was like clairvoyant. She had how can I say, visions or things that she foresee. She felt that way, and then someone else, she thought she was going crazy, but someone else says that we all have it, like how the young lady just said. Sometimes my skin tingle, or how you said about the book club. We have, I guess, the connection. Sometimes we don't feel it, or we either ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of her special abilities. That was one of my questions too. What special ability did Miss Tyson have ever
Mm-hmm.
since she was a child? And that's what it was. She had a sixth sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So what happened was, to tell you all the backstory, when she was a baby, her mom was, taking her in a stroller down the street, and a Jewish woman with short black curls, um, came up, want to see the baby, and this was about in 1925, and the lady leaned over under the large hood of the carriage and studied Miss Cecily Tyson's face and bald head, and she told her mother to take care of that child. She whispered, "Mommy scans the woman's eye in search of what she means." Like, what do you mean, take care of my child? She says she has a sixth sense. She continues, she's going to make you very proud. She's going to make you very proud one day, and she's going to take care of you in your old age. So that is what also, like we stated, that she had a sixth sense about things. She would all, and she also called it ESP, and that is a real term in the dictionary. And she said because at first she wasn't never scared about it, but she got it from her mom. Her mom can foresee things as well, and eventually she, I think, looked it up. One of her, I think someone told her to look it up, and it was like, it's a real thing, like it's for real. And she was like, I never heard of that. And they said, yeah, look it up in the look it up, and there's books about it. And
Mm.
sure enough, it's a, it's really out there. And she said, and they gave her books. I believe she was in the bookstore. She went straight to the bookstore
Right.
and started finding all these books on it, and she was like, oh my god, like, and she was so happy to read up on it because she was able to learn more about it. And I didn't even know there were books on it, really, but it really is,
Let me look.
something
I
that people have.
I wonder, what do we call that in the Black community, like old folks? Because they got a different name for it, don't they? I feel like there's a name, but I can't think of it. Like, oh, she got the gift. That's what they used to say. She got
Mhm.
the gift.
Also, isn't it one of those things where they talk about how babies born with a veil? That's one of the things that they're clairvoyant when they're born with a veil.
I have heard that term. I never quite knew what it meant.
Mhm.
So a veil is like when the part of the birth material, like the what the amniotic fluid is in and stuff
The
like that.
sack.
It's like, yeah, it's like around, like it breaks and then it covers the baby and part of it stays over like their head and then they're born that way. That's supposed to be like the veil, and that supposed to be something about having that signifies
Mm,
that the child is very, very um in tune and yeah,
okay.
and clairvoyant and have special
Yeah.
gifts. Yeah.
Oh, and another thing they would say is she's a seer or he's a seer. Like that's another name I would hear old folks say. Seer, that's what they would call them. The veil one, I think that I don't know who uses that, but I was just trying to remember what old folks used to call it, which is why she probably didn't know. She probably hadn't heard that term, but I wonder if she had heard other terms.
Well, this was, like I said, back in 1920s. So I don't know what they was using at that time. Maybe they just stuck with the sixth sense. I don't know. Um, but she also stated, as far back as she can recall, she said, I've had a sixth sense, an innate ability to see, feel, hear, taste, and smell events before they happened. And she's also said, when I was small, my sixth sense did not seem odd to me, or it did not scare me at all. So yeah, this is something she had. Like I said, her mother um had it
Had
as
it.
well too. So sometimes had it, yeah, she just I guess she just passed it down, and just, one of them things. 'Cause she didn't say like her sister or brother had it, and she was the firstborn. So,
And sometimes people don't tell people they got it
well,
because they don't want you to know they can see right through you.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, she wasn't the first one. I say she was the first girl because her brother was the first. He was older than her, and then it was Cecily, and then it was Emily. So yeah. So yeah. She also had a health condition. What health condition did Miss Cicely Tyson have, and what was she born with?
I'm gonna tell you right now, I have not read the book, but I do plan to get it because I hear it's a good one.
Oh yeah, it's really good. She actually was. She had her health condition was she had a heart murmur.
Mm.
She had that as a kid, yeah. But they told her that, one day she was They told her that she needed to some, give her some fresh air and put some fresh air in her lungs. And then she ate oatmeal, and she said it disgusted her at the time. Everything about oatmeal disgusted me. And the fact that she said she loved oatmeal now is a source of amazement, she says. She said, but the murmur, it ultimately disappeared. So sometimes it happens. You could be born with things and it could just go away. So that's what the health condition she had. So they were really concerned about her, and watched her very carefully over time, things of that sort. She also used her profession as her platform to make her voice heard by carefully choosing her projects and portrayals. She made a silent pact with herself to play women roles whose legacy that lifted us up. So I thought that was good too, because some people just want the money. They in the business, they'll play anything. They don't really care about how they're portrayed and things like that. So I'm happy that she did think about
Me
that,
too.
because yeah, because that has substance and that goes with you for many years. I mean, that's why we look up to her to this day, and why she's
Exactly.
why
And that's
she's
why
such an
so many
icon.
women, and that's why so many Black women felt empowered. When you hear actresses talk about who inspired them, she's always one of the women that
Mhm.
inspired a lot of Black actresses that they could do it. And when I think of her, I think of her roles that way. I can't think of one role where I'm like, oh, I wish she had never did that. Like when I think of some of the actresses, I'll be like, why did you do that?
Yes, yes, yes. I believe
Yeah.
she was asked to do one role. Oh, go ahead, Tawana, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just taking out for a quick second. Yeah, I can appreciate that too about actresses and having having a standard by which they won't um, allow themselves to cross, and she was one definitely. And currently, who comes to mind is Angela Bassett. She's the same way. There's certain things that she's just not going to do, period,
And I also
because
think of Viola Davis when I think of that
oh
too. The roles
yes.
that she
Oh
picks
yeah.
too.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. There's a lot of sisters that, they're just not gonna play anything just for the sake of being out there and making some money, and staying relevant because, one role can really kill your career, and have you looked at differently. And the one thing that I appreciate about Angela Bassett was saying, I can't remember exactly what she said, but in essence, she was saying like, I make decisions about the roles because film lasts forever. And this is how she's going to be seen and how she's going to represent Black women. So I think that's really important.
I have it is very important, but my thing is because she also commented on it, which I really don't like what is it, the black exploitation movies. I don't really like them, but at the same time, it did give them an avenue of income and things like that. I understand why she didn't like them because she felt it put us back, but at the same time, how can I say, it was a source that was pretty much us, even though they exploited us in those I don't know how you call those movies or whatever, black exploitation, superhero dramas, they exploited us, but at the same time, it gave us how can I say, a venue or something to act out on, even though that wasn't all of the black, how can I say, era,
That's
because
Miss
there were people doing
Dyson.
well things.
No, I know. I heard how thought it was. She'd be like,
Tawana.
I
I'm
said,
sorry.
It's
Because
okay.
I'm like, I thought you
Girl,
was
I didn't realize I hadn't muted out. My
that's
bad. That was my little girls
okay.
talking in the background.
It's okay. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Yolanda.
but she said she didn't like them, and I don't like watching them. And some people are like, I love those movies, but to each his own. But I just don't like them. But it did give them a thing because even like those actors, how can I say? It probably was there were good actors in there, but they never, how can I say, launched a successful career. Like what's her name, Jackie something, the main actor in those
I
exploitation.
know I can see her, but I can't think of her name. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Oh, Jackie. Yeah.
I think though it was what they were labeled as, but some of them weren't exploitive. They
Yeah.
weren't. They just named them that because sometimes those were movies that they created themselves and
Right.
wanted to appeal to, what I guess the
A
broader
different.
audience or
Yeah.
whatever.
I
Like
like
the one
that.
movie that what's his name made, um the one oh my goodness, what's his name? His son is a really popular was a really popular actor too. Um I can't even think of the name of the movie. Sweet Back. Uh, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But anyway, Mario and Melvin Van Peebles. Melvin Van Peebles. That's what.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that was one that was, I guess, considered. However, he got funding from Bill Cosby and stuff like that because he just felt like it was really important for Black people to tell their own stories the way they wanted to tell them. So I
Mm.
thought that was real interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, she said she didn't like, but I don't like them either. But because it's just, I guess, I don't know why I don't like them. But it gave them an avenue to do whatever. Even, how can I say, Bill Cosby and those, I forget his movies too. I didn't like those either. But it gave them an avenue or income where traditional Hollywood was only giving certain people a role or even certain looks. Like even in the book, how she said her features, they didn't consider it a standard of beauty. And then as I was listening to the book, it also reminded me of, even though this is 1960, 19, whatever, we're still going through the same thing where our natural hair isn't considered beautiful. And some people believe it's beautiful. I believe it's beautiful, but some
Mhm.
of us don't. So again, it's like they try to, how can I say, box us in a group, no matter what, because we're all different.
And Yolanda, I just looked it up. Were you talking about Pam Grier, the woman that
Pam
played
Grier.
Foxy Brown?
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Uh-huh.
that's who
That's
it
who
is.
I was thinking of when but I
And
couldn't think of her name.
yeah, she has minor roles, but they don't give her major roles. And I don't know if that black exploitation gave it to her because she was beautiful, but they didn't. How can I? She still hasn't branched off into where she has major roles. They put her in movies, but it's like insignificant roles. She never has a major part.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you the name. That's all I had for you too. Because when you said Jackie, I'm like, Jackie, I know who you're talking about. What are you talking about? But yeah, Shanika got
Hmm.
it. But I wanted to tell you about when she said about a certain project that she said she wouldn't portray. She
Hmm.
stated on 244, she said, I once declined to play a maid who had five children, each with a different father, a stereotypical two for one. She said, I told them about, she had already told them I won't do it. And then um, she said, I told them, look, I told her, I have nothing against such women. And I'm not debating whether they exist or not. I am simply telling you that I do not wish to project them. So I thought that was like, like she said, when she did the Rebecca movie, I mean, as far as playing Sounder and when she played Jane Pittman, she just didn't want to put us out there like that. We already got bad enough image for different things. So she looking like, no, I'm not playing that. You know what I mean? Why are you giving me a role with five different daddies?
Right. Why we gotta add that as a detail? I'm with you on that. Like that's unnecessary.
Especially when they give you roles and want to play, you want to play you got to play a prostitute. Like, come on now. You know what I mean? So yeah, she did not hold back. This Miss Cecily Tyson, this book, she did not hold back. She did not when she said how she felt. Like she said, I was a little difficult. She told us that I'm known as being difficult in the business.
Good for her.
Yes, but that's how you portray. When you speak up for yourself or you have a voice for yourself, what they label you as. Now you're being difficult. It makes sense.
Of
When you don't
course,
go
because
along,
you're
when you
not a Yeah, I was about to say, of course, because you're not a yes woman. Just you just tolerate anything. And I have heard that about her throughout, the years too, that oh, she's so difficult to work with. But that comes with who's saying that you're being difficult. You know what I mean? It's like, are you mean fellow actors saying you're difficult? Or are you talking about the ones that are in control, the executive directors and the producers and all that, because they want you to step outside of your comfort zone and what you're willing to do, you know? So it's
Yep.
all relevant or relative,
Mm-hmm.
I should say.
Mm-hmm. And another thing she stated too. She said when she was on when she like doing plays or movies, she said she stays into character. Meaning while we're on here, you call me by my character name. Do not call me Miss Cicely Tyson until we're done. And she said one guy was, she said, I'm not gonna name no name. She said, but he kept, I guess, playing in her face. You know how people just playing with you a little bit when getting yourself ready before the play or whatever. And she said, she was like, I don't know what done got into him. She said she went to the people and told them, if he don't stop, I'm gonna walk
Ooh,
off. I'm leaving.
okay. Okay,
I'm
Cicely.
leaving. Yes, she said, I am leaving. And sure enough,
Wow.
she said he straightened up his act. Everybody got paid. They listened in, they heard that.
I
I
love it.
switched out.
Yeah, I've heard a
Yes.
lot of male actors that do
Yeah.
that, a lot white male actors that are like that, and they call them serious about their craft. So it's
Yeah.
very telling that, women get labeled as difficult when they're like that, but men are considered serious.
And that it puts me in. It made me think about um, Django when you said that, Shanika, because what you were talking about, Tynesha, how she stayed in character. So, what's his name? The white boy, DiCaprio, right? Him and Jamie Foxx were actually really good friends, and in real life. And when he played the character in the well, I don't know if you guys have seen Django, but DiCaprio played
Oh
like
yeah, he was
the
a
slave.
slave
Yeah,
owner.
yeah, he was a
Uh-huh.
slave. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, really vicious one too. So he um he had Jamie Foxx had a hard time like being, I guess, getting in character and and understanding the role that DiCaprio had to play. And so he pulled him to the side. He was like, look, he's like, right now, I'm not your friend. I'm your master. And that's how you got to think about this. And the next day, Jamie Foxx went all in, and he wouldn't even talk to him the rest of the time they were filming. He got so into the character, like, I hate this mother. You know what I'm saying? So you're right, Shanika. They do say men with, the difference between men and women, in their roles and stuff like that. And that's always the thing. It's sad to say that how when we follow a particular protocol or ideology about how we should show up, that it's always a problem when it's women as opposed to men. It's a good thing when it's men doing that, but it's, you know, maybe, oh, she's too masculine or she's too this or she's too bossy or in control when it's women. So good for Cicely.
Yes, yes. Um, her mom, I was gonna ask, what did her mom wanted to name her? So her dad named her. Okay, her dad gave her the name Cicely Tyson, or Cicely, I should say. But her mom wanted to name her Miriam after her aunt that she treasured. But her dad was like, no, no, no. This my first daughter. I want my first daughter to be called Cicely. So there's a whole little thing about Cicely, right? He told her as when she was young that, oh, it was, where'd you get the name Cicely from? Oh, that's a little girl next door. Her name was Cicely, right? So when she got older, she went like to a gathering with her dad. I don't know if it was a party per se, but like a gathering. And he was like, Cicely. And she looking like, why you calling me all the way over there? I'm right here in front of you. Like I'm right next to you. And he said, this is the lady that name, you're not the only Cicely, is what he said. You're not the only Cicely. And he basically told her this is the original Cicely. That's where he got the name from. Another woman. So he went back. So of course, Cicely went back home. Ma, Daddy told me I met the real Cicely. Our mama looking like,
We know how that
Oh, they were
go. We know how that
Caribbean.
goes. Mhm.
I didn't know they were
tell me
Caribbean.
something I don't. She looking like, tell me something I don't know. yeah, Mama wasn't too happy about that. But anywho, you said what, Yolanda?
I didn't know that they were Caribbean. I
Mm,
knew, well, I just see people and I'm like, oh, they're black. But it's a bad habit of not, how can I say, recognizing the different nationalities or things where people come from. I just assumed they were all from the same place. But I didn't know that until she talked
mhm,
about it. And she talked about, other actors that were Caribbean too, which I didn't know that until reading this book
mhm.
or listening to
Yeah,
it.
yeah. They were from her mom was from an island called Nevis. So yeah. Yeah, they were Caribbean. Um her dad gave her the nickname, he gave her two nicknames, String Bean and Heartstring. My mother often referred to me as Father Face because I inherited my dad's cheekbones. My father had two names for me, String Bean and Heartstring. That's what he always called her. Mhm. So I thought that was cute. Um, as she was a child, when she was a child, she was very quiet, observant, and curious. And she said she studied everything. A lot of times people think, oh, you're quiet, your child is so quiet, but they're watching, they're listening to everything. They may not speak verbally all the time, but they are paying attention. So it's just something to think about with kids. She spoke about colorism. She talked about that on page 23 and 24, about being chosen as an actress and all that. You know how we have to go through um colorism and ways of getting roles and all that, and if you're a certain color you're gonna get more roles, and you dark as I don't know what, you're about to last on the list. So yeah, she spoke about that, and she said she was a deep chestnut brown in a nation that considers the darker sister the less attractive one. So yeah, colorism, which cuts its teeth on slave plantations, thankfully was not nurtured among the Tysons. So they didn't do that. Of course, they didn't even deal with colorism in the household. Like, no, she had family members that were lighter, darker, but it was just one of the things that um, it mostly, portrayed when, she was getting roles and things of that sort. Um,
It played a lot. She also said that it was one of the movies that they had told them that they were required to put a person of color in the play, and they said they went out to get two of the most fair skinned people that they can get to say, "Oh yeah, we got them," but they look pretty much of another nationality. And speaking of colorism, because every time everything that you figure, I figure, oh, this happened in 19 whatever, but we're still dealing with it today. So it's still like, oh, that stigmatism that's still there as far as colorism, our features or whatever, they still use it or classify it or even magazines. So when I see, how can I say, groups or things that exemplify our naturalness, and not to be ashamed, but to me, it's like they don't want to be like us, but you do everything to mimic us. I don't want your, how can I, even our lips. They mimic our lips in the makeup when they put the little dark line, because you look at our lips, naturally we have a dark line around our lips and it's lighter than inside. And they mimic makeup to look like that. And then even with the butt fillers, or even they're doing Botox or whatever, but you're mimicking to look like us. Even when they go to tanning, you're trying to get our natural melatonin, but you don't want to be like us, but you try everything and you do so much to look like us, which is crazy to me. But I'm gonna get off that bandwagon. But I just thought it was ironic. Here she is talking about it, and we still are going through the same thing. It's like we get advanced, and it seems like we go up two steps and they push us back 10. But
Mhm.
it just seems
Yeah.
the same to me.
Yeah, I have
girl,
this shirt that says, they love our swag but hate our struggle. And that's the
Yeah.
truth, because everything
Mhm.
about melanated people is everything. The world, the entire world patterns after. And I'm gonna be real specific too, because we were talking about this. I can't remember who this we were talking, I was talking with, but we have a unique culture ourselves. We have a unique culture ourselves, and I'm talking about we, I mean us as Africans, African Americans, people of African descent that live in America, because we have created our own culture. for everything you can think of, music, dance, hairstyles, you name it. Even though it's rooted in African culture and heritage, we have our own unique thing that the whole world has tried to adapt and mimic,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really something to say that and when we talk about racism now, to me it's not about hate, because they don't hate us, they fear us. So
Yeah.
that's a whole different place to be in. You know what I mean? When you want to be somebody so bad that everything about their culture you try to snag and take it as your own, or you create it or invent it, but at the same time you want to get rid of them. That's crazy. That is crazy to me.
Y'all ain't saying nothing but a word. I'm loving this discussion. Everything y'all saying, I'm like, mm-hmm. That's all I got to add. Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out what she said in the book. She said, "No one had to tell me that the fairer your skin and the narrower your nose and lips, the more stunning you were considered. That belief permeated the atmosphere. Caucasian women were upheld as the standard of beauty while our features were denigrated. Okay. In print media, Black hair was portrayed as unkept. At best, our presence was tolerated or ignored. At worst, we were systemically locked out of homeownership and wealth creation, redlined into ghettos and lynched. In no regard were we thought worthy of emulation. And not just our appearance was scorned. Our intelligence and very humanity were questioned, considered genetically unfit. The lie of Black inferiority was built right into America's infrastructure. And to this day, that framework remains stubbornly intact."
Yeah, and that's just
That's
to
what she said.
convince us, though. We know, I mean, if you look at historically, ain't none of that shit true. Ain't none of that true. Because when you talk about what was the first thing you commented about? It's the our lips and our hair and our this and our that. But everybody who's not trying to wear braids and locks and get their hair big and puffy now? Who isn't? What nationality doesn't love it? You know what I'm saying? And now some of the most beautiful women, strikingly beautiful women in the world are black as you can get. I mean, they blue black. They so dark and chocolatey and beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that was to convince us that that's who
Yeah.
we were. That's what that was about. It wasn't.
Yeah.
They always knew we were special. I mean,
And
because if you look at some of the ancient books, they talk about how exotic and beautiful and how, and smart and creative we were and all of this kind of stuff. So,
and
we
just to
need to.
bring it back to Cicely, I've seen some of the magazine covers she did when she was in her prime. She was stunning. White women couldn't even touch her. When I look at some of those covers, she had such a presence about her. She looked royal in some of those magazine covers. So even then, I think it was just like Tawana is saying. Once they actually got out there and people saw them and their beauty, it was unparalleled, and that's
Yes,
why they emulate it. So yeah,
yes.
just to bring it back to her, I
Hmm.
love some of the covers she did back in like the 70s and the 60s. It was like you just couldn't touch her. She was amazing.
Yes. And even when you come down to the braids, I remember being a little girl when the movie 10 came out, and I'm really dating myself now, with Bo Derek, right? And she had the braids in her hair with the beads and all of that, and they were calling them the Bo Derek braids. It's like, what? People were so up in arms about it. I remember reading um I think it was Ebony or something like that, and they were talking about it, and it was like Cicely Tyson. They had pictures of her. Cicely Tyson's been wearing braids and beads for years in Hollywood. Now all of a sudden you get a white girl that can't even sleep in them because they had to take her hair down every other day or so because it gave her headaches. She couldn't take the braids, and now you want to call them Bo Derek braids? Get out of here.
Yeah. And then she went on to say that given my dark complexion, I spotted no future for myself as a pinup girl. Much as my father in particular affirmed me, I did not feel pretty. And my classmates amplified that feeling. On the playground, I heard a looping trio of insults, calling her all kind of names, skinny, nappy headed, all that. And yeah, she said, and then they had like a little song or something, and it said, "Hey, Cicely," he said, "You want to hear something funny?" And then she nodded, like, and he cleared his throat and began, "God made the niggas, he made them at night. When God made the niggas, he made them at night. God was in a hurry and forgot to make them white." Now, this supposed to be her friend that she played with all the time, you know? So they played together. He lived right across the street from her. And look what
That's a
happened. You get to
hot
school.
mess. That's a hot
Yeah, but
mess.
as a little girl though, so just imagine as a kid, this supposed to be your friend, and then he do this in front of everybody and like make a joke, and everybody, start laughing and stuff. And she said, I just stared at him, and she didn't want to make, she just looked at him like, yeah, you're not gonna make me upset. Cause her dad always told you beautiful, you this, blah, 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 blah. And she said, I'm not gonna give him the satisfaction that he's looking for, So she didn't do it. She said, but in the life of every Black child, a moment arrives when he or she becomes wrenchingly aware of how we are perceived. So, like, even our kids today, right? Like, we all know about, slavery and how, other people can be towards us. And we watch stuff on TV. We watch a lot of social media. We watch just a lot of things. We know about history. Let's just put it that way. We know a lot about history. The younger kids run up, they may not be I don't know if they're being taught a lot about history, right? So they're walking around like, hey, you got Black friends. We all Black, we all Black. But then there comes a time when she's talking about when you grow up and you may get an altercation with a person, or somebody just bust out and call you the N word, or you have some type of racial problem that's going on and you looking like, what? You know what I mean? Like, it becomes then when you realize that, oh, this is how you really feel about me. You may not experience it in school, because if you go to all Black school with all Black kids, you're not going to experience anything. But you never know. It comes later in life. It does. And when it will hit you at some point. And we have seen how people of other cultures have treated us. We all have a story. Whether they may have not called you the N word, but may have treated you some type of way, made you feel
Mm-hmm.
some type of way.
Mm-hmm.
They feel it, but I don't think they know. Like, I'm originally from Detroit, but in Detroit, all my teachers were Black. And now that I live in Ohio, because how can I say there's Blacks here? I live in Cleveland now, but and where I work at the post office, but there are a lot of white people at the post office, but the Black people treat them as though they're, how can I say, kings and queens, but they're not in my eyes. And what it boils down to, and I asked them, well, what color are y'all teachers? Because I'm not understanding why y'all feel, because they're the same age as me, I don't understand why you feel like they're better. And they was like, they were white, but how can I say, the white teachers that they have kind of give them, how can I say, what is it, a subliminal message that I'm better. And they learned that at an early age, because that's how they are when they walk. If they'll treat Black people a certain way, but when they see white people, they treat them as though they can't do any wrong and whatever they say is correct. No, that's not the correct way, but it's because of their teaching. So they learn at different ages and depends on whatever. So like for me, it would probably be learning that, yeah, I know I'm different. I did go live in a Black predominant neighborhood, went to a Black predominantly school, but I learned, how can I say, the difference when I went and worked at the mall, which is a predominantly white mall in the suburb of Detroit. But you can tell the difference because even though here I am coming to work every time doing whatever, but this other one is doing the bare minimum and they're treating them better. So it's like, okay, whatever. But they learn different. Even with our kids nowadays, they might not learn right away, but they learn when they see things that happen. Like, I still think about Trayvon Martin because that really hurt my heart. Here's a young kid, he's just minding his own business, and because you feel threatened by him, which I'm pretty sure he was, because we naturally have that natural strength, you know what I'm saying? But you're threatened because I have my son, he's not young, but he's in his 30s. But at the same time, it's like I still have that fear. Like I don't want anything to happen to him because they see him as a black man and stronger. Like Tawana said, they fear us. So regardless, even though I'm minding my own business, but they learn whatever. So even now I say something like, oh, the cop pulled me over because my light was over, and I said I was thinking about saying. And my son's like, and you thinking about going to jail? I was like, oh, whatever. But they learn early. It depends on different stages, and I remember her saying that at one point we do realize there's a difference. So be it at a young age or an adult age, we learn the difference. Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And I was going to say, when you said about how they don't hate us, but they fear us. And I know I did a segment about the police and all that in the prison, but it just goes to show you why there's more. When they arrest us or when they do anything, it's always, oh, I accidentally shot him. The gun accidentally went off. It seemed like the gun always accidentally go off with a black person, but never with a white person. Don't actually go off. You don't accidentally shoot. You don't
Mm-hmm.
even take the gun out.
You don't. That's crazy. Or even when they have a weapon in their hand, they don't take the gun out. We've
Never.
seen the video where it was a white guy in the park. He was probably having mental issues. He had a knife in his hand. The police officer never took a gun out to shoot him or stop him from doing whatever. And the guy literally tried to stab the police officer. But had that been a black person, they would have shot him. And it's like, oh, whatever. But they didn't waste the time or whatever. But it's just like they claim they don't see it and there's no different, but every time I see it, and I'd be like, no, leave it there so they can realize, yeah, y'all was part of it. So even when they want to take down those, how can I say, those racial flags that they claim, like, oh no, this is part of history, but you only want to tell one part of the history. And that, they just drive me crazy.
Shakina, did you have a question? You have your hand raised.
Yeah, sorry. So I worked until like 5 a.m. I didn't get home till 6, so I kind of overslept. My bad, y'all.
That's cool.
All right.
Glad you're here with us.
Um,
Go ahead.
I can already tell what y'all are talking about, which is crazy. I just watched that Neighbor from Hell, where they had this neighbor, this white woman that had called the cops maybe some 500 times on little black kids just playing. Like there was like this little patch of like just grass and area that the kids would run around in. They would play football. They would just be playing. They were being kids in their little small neighborhood. And she would call the cops, and the cops would show up, and they would be like, "Well, what's going on? Where they're playing? They're playing in this area. They're kind of loud." And the cops would be like, "Well, they're kids. They don't play quietly outside. Like they come outside to play loudly." To the point where the cops were just completely over it. She would just call the cops constantly because the kids were playing, and then of course, she would throw out racial slurs at them and things like that. There was one of the moms that would just go over there because the lady would only yell at and with the kids, but she would never talk to the adults. One of the moms had went over there because the lady, this particular night, was throwing stuff at the kids, and one of the little boys, like the kids had left. One of the boys had left like his skates and his iPad. He had accidentally left it outside. The lady took the stuff, so the mom went over there to get the stuff back and knocked on the door. The lady shot her through the door. And one of their
That
favorite,
was that
one of their
called The Perfect Neighbor?
yeah, they had an episode on this other show. I was watching like Neighbors from Hell, but then
Okay.
they just did an ABC 2020 on that incident. I think ABC 2020 called it The Perfect Neighbor,
Okay.
and
Yeah, it's
shot
on
her through the door.
Netflix too.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
Netflix now.
Okay.
Shot her through the door. Now, mind you, the door is locked, bolted, and one of the favorite lines that white people like to use is "I feared for my life," especially in states like Florida, where there's a stand your ground law. And she shot the woman through the door, ended up killing her, and was like, I thought she was kicking down the door, she was busting down the door, and everyone was like, no, it was like literally a knock. She knocked twice, and then boom, was shot through the door and ended up killing her. And to this day, this lady was like, would swear to the teens that the lady was gonna bust down and kick down the door. And just a month prior, the landlord had put on this new bolted lock on this woman's door. So there's absolutely no way this woman was gonna kick her door down or nothing like that. And that's the
But
defense that she
how you
tried
feel
to.
for your life? How you feel for your life and the person on the outside of the door? They're not even in your face. They're
They're not yet.
outside.
Yet she couldn't see who was not the woman not the woman knocked. I think it was like twice. Everyone said, and then boom, shots. And then
Yeah.
the one of her sons was standing next to her and had to watch her get shot and killed.
Yeah,
And
and that's so
that
sad.
is the line every time they shoot at or attend to something towards a black person. The line that they use, especially the cops, is "I feared for my life." That is their favorite line to use as this justification.
Yeah.
And mind you,
Yeah.
these were like little kids. These were like little kids playing in their neighborhood, and yeah.
Yeah, and the sad part about that whole thing, because I saw that, Shakana, and the sad part, the saddest, other than those children lost their parent, their mother, um, is that the little boy who left his stuff, he's always going to be dealing with trauma, and because he felt like it was his fault that this happened, because if he hadn't left his skates and his iPad over there, his mom would not have had to go over there and try to confront this woman about this. And it's just, yeah, it's, and this is a lifetime of trauma this poor little baby is going to have because of something that this woman did that was unjustifiable, was totally outrageous. And like you said, there's no way she could have even got the door. She would have had to use one of those police um door, things that they ram the door in to even get in this woman's door. So yeah. But here's the best part though. They locked her butt up real good too. I think she got like 20 something, 25 years, I think. Because I did follow that that uh
Hmm.
that thing on through, and yeah, she got it. No, I'm glad to say that.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
I think they ended up charging her with like manslaughter.
Mhm. Anybody else have anything to share? No? Okay, I kind of want to go on to how she moved into like becoming an actress and just still in the child stage more so, but I didn't want to kind of move towards that area. So what happened was when she was in third grade, she had a sister, I mean a teacher, not a sister, a teacher named Mrs. Sullivan. And Miss Sullivan, just walking around her desk and just said to her one day, you ought to be in pictures. You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you will be." She sang a little jingle. And, Sissy looking like, what? And she just saying like now, like, man, when she get older, she like, man, Miss Sullivan was foretelling my future. Because she was like, I don't know what even made her even say that. She just a little girl in the school doing her work. What I'm saying? She's like, I don't know if I grinned at her or smiled at her, but that's what she said. So it goes to show you that sometimes teachers and people, when you're young, they can see things in you. I had another friend on here, Rona Bennett. She said how her mother told her, her grandmother told her, you should watch that, pay attention to her because she gonna be somebody one day. And sure enough, she end up being a celebrity. So it just goes to show you little people, little when you're little, people older can sometimes detect things or maybe see things that she was just telling her you should be in pictures. And remember, Cicely is saying, like, I don't even think I'm pretty. What am I being in pictures for? You know what I'm saying? And it goes to show you as she got older, her face is everywhere. The whole world damn near knows Miss Cicely Tyson. You know what I mean? Her face is on magazines, movies, everywhere. So who would ever thought? You know, it's just amazing. I like to hear when they were kids and they grow up and how they, just became who they are. Because we didn't know her back then. You know what I'm saying? We weren't even born, but we know her as an adult. But she started from just being a kid going to school like everybody else, and just boom, who would ever thought? So I just like the timeline that she gave us, and I would just like to follow those type of things. Um, But yeah, so the first movie that she ever went to was when she was 11 years old, and she went to see King Kong. And she after that she said she never stepped foot in a theater ever again until 1972, when the premiere of Sounder was being played. All those years, because King Kong scared her so much, it terrified her, literally. The movie. She said, "Oh no, I'm never going to that inside of a theater ever again." Just seeing that on the screen and how the people was everything about it just scared her. So yeah.
It was
Um,
scary. I tell people that, I'm tickled because I tell people that all the time that King Kong scared me because I just dreamed. It's like King Kong. I said, yeah, I was little when I saw it. But I said, well, on TV, when I saw it on TV. And I said, because I just felt he was going to come through that back window and just tear down the house, just destroy it. Not that he was going to kidnap me, that he was going to just come. They was like, it was King Kong. I was little. You know what I'm saying? But that movie scared me too.
and just well, there you go. You say she felt the same way as a kid. I haven't
Mhm.
seen King Kong, so I don't know. I've only seen like pictures and stuff. I have never seen the movie itself, but yeah, you can relate to that. Then you can relate.
Mhm.
She said, I never stepped in a theater ever again until 1972. Um, so yeah. Another thing I want to talk about was when she saw her mom being lined up to be considered for work, inspected as if she was on an auction block. She never ever got over that. So she was walking down the street. Her mom told her one day, oh, meet me on this, meet me at this corner. We're gonna go shopping for your East outfit, right? And she like, okay, all right, I'll meet you over there. And she walking along, walking along, walking along. And she see these women outside. She like, what? What are they doing? You know what I'm saying? And she eventually sees her mom, and she's like, now what are they doing over here? And they actually were being chosen for work. That's how they chose them back then. How you look, how do you look like you're healthy enough, all that. It said, but on the sidewalk, as onlookers stopped by to evaluate my mom, the agonizing truth of her situation is settled over me. So, uh, yeah, that's how they a lot of times chose their workers. You didn't fill out applications like we do now. Okay. They have a bunch of women, and her mom was like a person that went over and cleaned houses and stuff. So I guess that's how they chose you. You get picked, they like
Similar
you,
to a
and
slave auction. Every
exactly.
time you see something, it's like, oh yeah, we're no longer doing this, but you all still do things that's, how can I say, is not justified, is not humane. But they're like, oh, we don't do that. Yeah, you do. You still do it. But I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah. And the way and when she saw Cicely's face, because she was just like she couldn't understand. She said earlier that day, mom had finished her work and she stopped on the street. And she said she didn't linger on that sidewalk long enough to be chosen, only because she noticed my disbelief, seeing how I hesitated to walk toward her after she called to me. There was a flicker in the shame in my eyes. So her mom just said, "Forget it, I'm just gonna go," because she just looking like she distraught. But yeah, she was being chosen for another gig or another job. Her daughter actually saw her for the first time that day. I guess her mom does this all the time, but because they were meeting up, that's what she ran into, and that's how she saw her. And she said, all these years later, I have never, never gotten over the horror of what happened on the street, and I may never get over it. So yeah. And that's new to me because I didn't know you got chosen for work like that. Honestly, that's why I said you didn't fill out application, because that's my era. You fill out application. What do you mean we've been chosen on the
They do
street? What do
that
you mean?
now. It might not be us standing on the side, but if you go by Home Depot and you see, like, especially in the South in Florida, they have the Mexicans or Hispanics, or they're sitting out there waiting to be chosen. And people pull up. New Orleans, they pull
I
up.
did not know that.
Yeah, they pull up, pick them, and they get in the truck and take them off for work. hmm
In 2026.
2026, they do that. hmm So I seen it in New Orleans and I seen it in Florida, where early in the morning. If you go out early in the morning, I'm going for breakfast. But you go out early in the morning, you see those things. They're workers. They're standing there, and the people choose them. Not me, or people that look like me. It's other people that look like them. They pull up in their truck and pick the workers, and they take so many, and they go today.
Girl, I am speechless.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was over with.
No.
That is still going on today. OMG. Did you
Mm-hmm.
all know that? People on the call? Shakina, Pepsi. Did y'all know that?
I didn't.
If you drive by, if you're in Florida or New Orleans, because they do that there. I don't know if they do it in California. I haven't seen it in California, but they literally pick those people up. They're Hispanics. There's a lot of how can I say, Hispanic people in Florida, but they literally pick them up at those stops and take them off for work to go do some work.
I've heard of that. A lot of them stand out outside of like the Home
Yep.
Depot and Lowe's and stuff like that. Yeah. I didn't realize they still did that. I remember that when I was younger.
Yeah, they still do it. I
Oh,
saw it,
wow.
and
Yeah,
I
it
was like, "What's
happens. It
going on
happens here
here?"
in Chicago. Uh-huh. They do that still. At,
Early in
like
the
you said, the
morning.
home.
Early in
Yep.
the morning. Now you got to
Yep.
catch them early in the morning. They're not there in the evening or whatever because you would miss it. But they're there first thing in the morning.
I don't see them too much anymore since ICE is a thing.
Yeah, that's probably that too. So I haven't seen it since our new elect, but prior to that, they were doing that.
Wow.
hmm
You learn something new every day. I did not know that was going on still. Wow. Um, I also want to talk about how she stated on page 63 how the United States has never been one nation under God. She spoke about that. Um, yeah, she said the United States has never been one nation under God, but several nations gazing up at him. Dissimilar faces huddled beneath a single flag. In white America, the 20s may have roared, but in my Black world, in what has been called the other America, the decade also moaned. Black people knew that they Black people knew what we still know. Communities of color are always grappling with financial despair. So she spoke about that as well, about the financial market collapse, the Great Depression, all of that. But yeah, Black people, the Black world is considered the other America. Have you all heard that term before?
I haven't, but I'm pretty sure it's used, but I haven't.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a lot of times I think when they talking, they're not really like they say when they wrote the Constitution, it really wasn't for us. You know what I mean? When they talk about, we're this and we're all that, all whatever they be saying, we the people of the United States and all that. Yeah, we part of the United States, but I think a lot of things when they were putting it together, they weren't talking about us per se.
They didn't consider us a person. So, like,
Exactly.
even when they wrote that, they didn't consider those of African descent people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at the same time, like she said, they always want to say we're one nation under God, but you don't practice what's written. So you do what you want to do.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Um, So yeah, another thing that she did, she was more talented. She was also a pianist. She was a hairstylist. She did a lot of different things, of course, when growing up. Um, uh, she also had a daughter. A lot of us don't know that. She stated in there that it was considered that what's the girl name that played with her in that movie? She said that everybody thought that was her daughter was what is her name? Kimberly Elise. It was a rumor going around that that was her daughter, but no, she did have a daughter, but she does not, even in this book, she does not give out her name. She gave her like a fake name, and her name was Joan in this book. So yeah, but she became pregnant. Um, she got pregnant by having sex one time. Also, Maya Angelou did the same thing, had sex one time and got pregnant. I know that it happens, but it's almost like, damn, one time, I'm that fucked up. And it happens so quick that they be like, what was that? You know what I mean? Like that's the worst. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, bam, you got a whole baby. Although we know it happens, it's just like, damn, you know what I mean? And it's that, like I say, it happens to both of them. Same trip, pretty much, same type of way. And both are pregnant,
Yeah.
as young kids.
She says she
Mhm.
only had one, and when she had that one, she immediately got insurance so her baby can be taken care of. So she didn't want her baby to struggle or whatever while everything was going good. So she only had that one, which I'm surprised she didn't have one by her love of her life, but she only had that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She went to the doctor and they told her, your daughter's pregnant. She probably almost a month long at the time. She was probably like a month long. And she knew because she lost, she didn't have her period and she missed it. And in the exam room, she said, my heart hammered away in my chest as my brain raced. Pregnant? How could I be pregnant? Kenneth and I didn't do anything for me to get pregnant. That's what she said. Those are her words, not mine. She said, how could I be pregnant? Kenneth and I didn't do anything for me to get pregnant. We didn't even lie down, is what she said. Of course, her mom wasn't happy. And she just said, if only you waited. If only you waited. Her mom was, disappointed, because she wanted her to wait, get married, do the whole thing. And her mama also feared, like, man, my husband gonna kill me. Because her husband always wanted her to make sure she would protect Cicely. And she said, Willie Tyson is going to kill me for this child. After mom and dad had separated, my father had often said to her, if anything bad happens to her, my sis, I'll kill you. If anything ever happens to my sis, meaning Cicely, I'll kill you. So yeah, she said on the way home, they took the train and neither one of them spoke and said one word to each other. So yeah, wow, that's sad.
That's an awful thing,
But yeah,
but it's sad.
yeah, it's awful. It's awful, I mean, because you're young, and it happened. You didn't finish school and all this other stuff, and you had a little boyfriend, and you know, and like she said, years later, my friend Maya Angelou would describe her own pregnancy this way: when I was 16, a boy in my high school he evinced interest in me, so I had sex with him just once. She wrote, and after I came out of that room, I thought, is that all there is to it? My goodness, I'll never do that again. Next thing she knew, she was expecting, which is precisely how I felt. I hadn't even laid down for God's sake. But then she also is trying to get to us to understand some. She says that is what happens when parents think they're protecting their children by withholding the truth. They are, in fact, exposing them to heartache. So maybe if someone set her down and told her this is how you have a baby, maybe she could have prevented being pregnant. But back in them days, You know, parents don't really sit you down and give you that one-on-one talk, what they call it, the birds and the bees. You know, a lot of us didn't have that talk. I know I didn't. I was just blessed not to have to get pregnant. So, anywho, anybody have anything to share on that?
I literally was just having this conversation. Actually, I think I've had this conversation multiple times just in the last week or two. But I just had this conversation with my daughter, my youngest daughter, this morning because my aunt came downstairs and as she was taking Rue's hair down, there was some movie on that they had on, and there was a scene where um a girl was going to church, or the choir director wasn't there and was replaced by a new choir director. And so I had her rewind it because when she arrived and the door opened, another girl was coming out of the choir director's office, and there was a look on her face, and there was a look on his face. And so I told her to pause it. And so I went on to explain to her what does this mean to you? What does this scene mean to you? What is it telling you? Like, because I'm always looking for teachable moments. And so she rewound it, and I said, look at her face. Look at the girl who just left, and look at the guy's face. Look at all of the things. And so I've been teaching her about intuition since. And so she was able to say, I wouldn't have gone in that room, or it looks like something's wrong, or she went on to tell me how she felt about it. So we had to pause the movie so that the three of us could talk about the importance of intuition and the importance of knowing who you are, situational awareness, and so on and so forth. So, we had a good, probably half-hour long conversation, which of course spawns into many other things, but more importantly, me talking about the different generations and how secrets were kept. That's the generation like of secrets. And of course, a lot of it was interwoven not just from the past and that, comes from slavery, but also, unfortunately, through religion and the church, and how, there's an image that you must uphold. And so everybody kind of wants to be that perfect image that, is talked about in the Bible. And so if somebody does a such thing as being human, God forbid being human, and making mistakes or doing things that and in some cases it's like you just don't know. Maybe you're not just like some fast girl who's out here that might get pregnant or get a disease or something like that. You just literally didn't know, and because you didn't or weren't taught to listen to your intuition or to even be able to assess whether or not a situation was safe or not. And then something happened. Let's say you were raped, or something like that. You couldn't tell anybody because there's an image there's because if I tell or something happens, then my family, I'm going to be a disgrace to my family at the church. So what's more important is how everybody at the church views us. And it also tells people, which isn't true, but it says to, that the mother isn't a good mother because if your daughter did this, or if your son did that, or if your son ended up, you know, getting, going to jail or something. Never mind the fact that he could have been most likely racially profiled and something blamed or pinned on him, because this, of course, was before cell phones and, Rodney King. But whatever happens, we live in this system where, we are targeted, or we're purposely not educated or miseducated, um so that we just don't know, and we don't know what we don't know. So I appreciate whatever they were watching when I came in the room, so that it could open up those doors. So I've lived my life with my children of doing the complete and utter opposite of what I was raised, or what I watched, and how everybody keeps secrets. And then there was another scene where she, I guess, became pregnant. I don't know how I missed some stuff, but she was in the hospital and the mom was standing over her bed and it's like, okay, next comes the, okay, you're pregnant now. And since the parents were the first generation that, from the Great Migration that has come to the north, then one of two things is going to happen. Either her child, who's now pregnant as a teenager, gets sent back down south to her mom to raise the child because it's going to tarnish her image. So you care more about your image than being able to be empathetic to your child, or you keep your child here and just take her out of school, take her out of church, and she make up a story about it. Once she has the baby, now the baby has to go down south, or you just take the baby without the teenage mother's permission and get it adopted or like give it away or like whatever. And it's just like this trauma it's just it's a thing. And it's sad, but we were able to have that conversation. And she's 10. So I've, like I said, I've talked to my kids about all things. There's nothing off topic. There's no taboo subjects. Whatever it is that you can think about, you can talk to me about. If I don't have an answer, we're gonna figure out. We have a village big enough for us to figure the answer out together. So that is definitely one thing that I take from paying attention to the generations that come prior, to us. I'm a Generation Xer, so you know, I think we have one foot in the 20th century and one foot in the 21st century. And I do something. Can you hear me?
Mm-mm, I hear you just fine.
Oh, okay. My screen did something funky. But yeah, we have one foot in the 20th century, so we understand the elders, but we also have one foot in the 21st century, so we understand the young people. So I feel like we're in that middle age gap where we're here to bridge the gap. And so yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Okay. I just want to say it's funny that you started talking about the church and the pregnancy and all that and all that. And then my first thought when you said that was about back in the day. If anybody remember, when you did get pregnant in the church, you had to go before the church and apologize and stand before all the whole congregation on the Sunday
Yep.
morning at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever time your church start, and tell them I'm sorry for getting pregnant.
Yep.
Okay. That's what I remember as a kid. You had to go before, if you got pregnant and you was not married, you had to go before the church on a Sunday morning and tell them folks you're sorry. You write a letter, you read the letter, or you stand there with the microphone in your hand, everybody looking at you dead in your face, and you be like, I'm sorry. Could y'all please forgive me? I asked the church for my prayer or whatever they be saying. But yeah, so
Hmm.
that was my first thought. Okay. Second thought when you talked about it, I said, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. I remember her saying something about this in the book. On page 90, she said, Kenneth, which is the baby daddy. Okay. That's who she got pregnant by, Kenneth.
Hmm.
Her mama liked Kenneth so much because she liked another boy that she really liked. He was telling her, oh, you so beautiful. Oh, you so good. Her mom was like, get away from that boy. Get away from him. Da, da, da. Right. That's the boy she really liked. So Kenneth went to church. And it says here, Kenneth had been on my mother's approval list even before she'd seen him. He checked the only box that seemed to matter to her mother. He was the offspring of a reverend.
Hmm.
That's why her mother wanted to be with her. She was like, you be
Because it was
this boy.
about status and class. It's not been about anything else. It's about the haves and the have-nots and the image. Never mind what's going on behind the scenes. Like behind closed doors, everybody's household was a mess. And everybody's household had stuff going on. And most of which because like they're trying to hide from being human. We're
And you
perfectly
want him, you
imperfect
want
and
your
imperfectly perfect.
and you want your daughter to go with this reverend son, and he the one end up getting her pregnant.
And that's where all the hypocrisy lies. Most of the hypocrisy that I've ever experienced in my entirety of my life has come from the church folk. It's unfortunate because like I I I never drank the Kool-Aid. I ever since I was a child, I just never drank the Kool-Aid. I tasted the Kool-Aid, and at some point, And I don't know if it's a generational thing, but my generation was like, that don't taste like Kool-Aid and that don't taste good. And why everybody drinking Kool-Aid, drinking this Kool-Aid that tastes like poison? And you look around at
Yeah.
all the adults in your life putting on this show and like doing this, shucking and jiving and like everybody's like playing these roles and you just kind of, and then of course, children are to stay in their place. Children are to be seen and not heard, speak when spoken to. And if you question any authority or any of the, you know, um, anything, it's be quiet or go sit in the corner or they hush you or if you get older and you still have a voice and you start to voice your opinion about things, you get ousted from the family, you get criticized, you get you're called names, you become the black sheep or you become like whatever. They don't support you, they will disinherit you, they if you don't conform. And that's I think society's biggest problem, which they talk about in The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. The problem is conformity, that everybody's acting like everybody else without thinking. Like the fact that they've tricked us out of thinking for ourselves. There, people are not walking around this earth. More so, I'll say in this country. I'm a limited to this country, but with they're not walking around being able to have organic thought. And I just want y'all to just kind of think about that for a minute, even after we get off of this. The people that are not like experiencing what it is like to have organic thought. And most people are literally walking around regurgitating something that somebody else said to them. If you ask them a question, they're not going to pause for a moment and think about something that comes from within and tell you. They're going to pause for a second and they may not even pause and they're going to think about where they heard this from, what other conversation they heard, maybe something they saw on TV or what the pastor said in the pulpit or what does the Bible say about it or what does some like organic, meaning not from anything or anywhere else, like from within you, from that spirit place within you. Not what the scripture says, not what the mayor says, the president, your friend, your mama, your what, right here. What do you think about it?
Yeah.
They don't even know how.
Huh.
And then it's like they glitch. You know, it's like the Matrix. If you ask them a question and or you say something to them that is like some type of red pill kind of comment, they glitch. You literally see them glitch. They will not answer you. They will change the subject. They will exit stage left even, you know, and they will, they might even start growing some horns, but they cannot handle how we think. Like somebody like me, I disrupt all kinds of conversations and they,
Girl,
leave
we
people
already know.
looking all kind of crazy. Like
Yes.
who is she? Where she come from? Where she going? Put her back because I'm making them uncomfortable by causing them to think.
Right.
By like summoning or connecting to that part of their spirit because I believe we're all one. We are all one and we have the ability to connect with everyone because the same breath you breathe is the same breath I breathe. The same
Yes.
spirit that's inside of you is the same spirit that's inside of me. So I can have an influence on you. We can have an influence on each other. So I'm on the path of raising the collective consciousness. So everywhere I go, like you're gonna remember the things that I say. You may not agree with me on the surface level, but when you're in the confines of your own space at home in your private space, you're gonna think about things that I've said to you. And that's all I need to do. I just plant the seed.
Yep. That's it.
And then
But
you'll
yeah.
hear it somewhere else. And then, you'll start to have more thoughts because, I mean, we get here, but we've been tricked out of it. So I've not been
Hmm.
tricked. And I've been planting those seeds in my kids all these years, ever since they were in utero. But
Yeah.
I love this story about Cicely Tyson because it, I don't even know how I ended up reading this, but as I read and I listened to it on Audible. Um, it just reminded me I have 8 aunts that I grew up under. And so just the women folk, the church folk, like everybody, and everything that she said in this book reminded me of that time, those times and how those women thought and why they thought the things that they thought and just the lack of connection that we had. Um, it's just and I just never could subscribe to it. I couldn't succumb to the conformity. And I just never did. So when I went away to college, I spread my wings and I just started researching and reading and connecting with different people who thought like me. And I've been on that path ever since. And so I'm an avid learner, so that I can help people to see because nobody's seeing. They're looking, but they can't see. They're listening, but they can't hear. So they're walking through life with their eyes wide shut. So I'm a stop talking because I'll ramble and I'll go on and on.
That's
So
okay. So what you're saying is that we're walking, but you're giving us the prescription, the glasses to see. We're just not focused. Or you're giving us the hearing aid. We hear, but we don't really hear. So that's what you are being, our avenue. It's okay. I
Mm-hmm.
understand.
Yeah. But like I said, going back to when she had the child, she said there was never any question I keep the child. So like if she would have got with the boy that she really liked, he probably would never got her pregnant. But because of just he's some boy you went to school with, yada yada yada, you can't mess with him. Because I feel like the one that's go to church, he gonna be the one that's not gonna get you pregnant. But it turned out to be the one that was the son of a reverend, got you pregnant in like how many times you done met him? You said one time y'all you went to his house. I think that one time, and boom, that's where his man was at. And her mom was trying to protect her, but look what happened. You can't go by perception. You can't go by, oh, that's the son of a preacher. You should be with him. But like you said, it's about image. So she said there was never any question that I keep the child. In my family and church community, abortion was not even a thought or a conversation. She wasn't even 18 yet. Okay. So she said that she said her mom wanted her to marry Kenneth because she felt like, hey, you pregnant now? Y'all need to get married. I don't care if you really like him, if you don't like him, if you love him, if you don't love him. You need to get married. That's the next step. You got a baby, get married. And that don't just stop there, right? And she said, I'm not signing any papers for you to marry before you're grown, she murmured. We'll wait until you're 18. At the time, I experienced my mom's insistence that I marry Kenneth as my extension of her autocracy, her maintenance of control, she felt slipping away. So she felt like my daughter's slipping away, she's with this guy and blah, blah, blah. No unmarried daughter of mine is going to be bringing a child here, my mom said to me repeatedly. And yet her mother, Mary Jane, had done exactly that,
and history repeats itself.
basically. And she didn't even realize it, but her sister Emily had sat her down one day and said, and did the math. She said eventually it stirred me to the truth. My dad and mom married after conceiving my brother, which his name was Melrose. Okay. So she stated at her wedding, she said, it felt more like a funeral than a wedding.
And see, can I pause real quick? See, that's the thing that I'm talking about. This is why I've been, my family thinks I'm crazy because I talk to my kids about everything. And I've always, had the finger pointing because I don't conform and I do things opposite of what was done to me or my mom's generation or prior generations. But history is going to repeat itself until somebody stops the cycle and eats the trauma. Somebody has to eat, like, put it in their mouth, chew it up, and like eat the trauma in order to move forward without it. And so had the mom, instead of putting it under the rug, sweeping it under the rug, but she was afraid because she doesn't want, the oxymoron of the church of like, they can't go to the church to like really talk about the things that have caused the trauma in the first place. And you would think that that would be the place based on everything. But the fact that it happened to the mom and she was not able to, for whatever reason, she's fearful, she doesn't know that, or whatever, she was not able to sit her daughter down and have the conversation with her to say, this happened to me. this is how I felt about it. I felt this, I felt that, I felt whatever. And this is why I'm telling you whatever. So here is my advice to you as a result of what happened to me. And this is what I didn't know. This is what I'll tell you. This is what, and just starting that conversation and having that could have opened the door and for not just for the mom's healing and to get all of that off, because I mean, imagine the stress that comes along with holding all the secrets that they hold. And then being able to guide her, give her daughter the confidence and the freedom and autonomy to make choices and, just the mental fortitude and strength to be able to make decisions that are in the best beneficial interest of herself and so on. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But
it's
in
a thing.
1920, all of that was not even a thought.
Yeah.
1920s.
Mm-hmm.
She said on the ride home, they didn't say nothing.
Right.
You know what I
Because
mean?
they
She
don't
didn't even
talk about
know
it.
about the period, you know? She didn't even
Mm-hmm.
know about that, She like, what is this? What's going on here? You know what I mean? So, it's just the way it was back then. And then she said, I cried because I didn't want to be married. I cried. I didn't want to be married. She said, I was not ready for commitment. Repeating my vows felt like surrendering my freedom. Just as I was beginning to find out who I was, this marriage placed a chokehold on the discovery,
There's
So
the
they stayed
there's the
together.
patriarchy.
Yeah, so they stayed together. Whatever she did is, what she could. But after a while, she left the marriage. She left. You know, she just walked out and left. And took her baby back to, I think she went back to mama house, I believe. And yeah. But I mean, just saying, who would have known she went through all this? So yeah, she gave her daughter a fake name, and the book name is Joan, and she did it because she's trying to keep her private. She want her daughter to come out and be public when she wants to, but thank God she did do that because some people don't really care about putting their kids out there, but back in them days, she wanted to. This my kid. This is my private life. I don't want y'all messing with my daughter. This is private. I don't. I want her to have a real life and not media or whoever be all up in the business and having all of. You don't even see no pictures over on Instagram. On in Google. There's no pictures of her daughter anywhere. And like I said, and she even respected her in this book. She said, "I did that to respect her privacy. I gave her a name as Joan in the book." So she stood on that. But yeah, she eventually left the marriage, is what I'm saying. And then she had a message for children that are pregnant and, kids having kids. She said, it is why I often now tell young people to slow down and think, to use protection, to consider what's involved when you bring a human being into this world. It is a heartbreaking thing for children to have children. So a lot of people support it. Oh, you having a baby? Okay, whatever, whatever. But you need to that's why so many kids are having kids because no one's sitting them down and talking to them about this is your life. This is, are you able? Are you ready? You know what I mean? Everybody want to talk about sex, and sex is so exploited into the media, but no one talks about what happens after that. Everybody talk about sex, but when it come to baby, everybody gone. Well, all the people that was having, talking about the sex and all that other stuff, where they at? Girl, you got you some. Girl, you ain't got no man. Girl, you ain't got you some. It's not the thing. It's not hot. It's not. It's not. It's not hot. You know what I mean? But yeah. Okay. So does anybody else have anything to share?
2 days before my 25th birthday.
Can somebody put their phone on mute? Because we hear somebody talking in the background. All right. So anybody have anything else to share? Okay. So she sent her daughter away to a Christian boarding school in upstate New York because at the time her mother was watching her daughter while she was working, because she working, trying to bring in the money, trying to bring in the bacon. She moved back in with her mama after she left the man and all that other stuff, right? So her mom supposed to have been her caregiver. But at this point, her mom done got older, right? And she come home one night, her mama basically on the porch, hanging out the window with her daughter, and she looking like, what's going on here? We having a party. It's 9:30 at night. She said John is 10 at the time. She said, what is she thinking? I don't even know. Why on earth is my child still, what is she still doing up? It's not my mom put her in bed yet. So I guess my mom like, shit, we kicking it. You know what I'm saying? What's up? I mean, it ain't bedtime yet. You know, sometimes grandparents can be a little lackadaisical. So I guess she's just, had just, she said my mom had understandably grown weary with caretaking. Those are her words. Mom had understandably grown weary with caretaking. So she said, okay. So since you don't want to, follow a strict bedtime and all this other stuff and watch a lot, I can't trust you to watch my daughter. She said, that is why when my eyes fell on an advertisement for a Christian boarding school in upstate New York, I immediately became interested. And that's where she took her daughter, and that's where she went. Yep. She packed up her lungs and took the train, and they went up north, up there to take her daughter to boarding school. I thought it was quite interesting on how she became an actress. She did a lot of work. She did work like us, her primary job was at a law firm, and then she quit. Second gig, she was doing a typing pool. She mastered stenography and shorthand in high school. Later, she got another temporary gig typing case histories at the American Red Cross. A black man out the blue came and said, in a suit, asked her, "Are you a model?" She looking like, "No. Why are you asking me that?" This is how it all started, y'all. A black man in a suit. It's tough. She was leaving Lord and Taylor. He asked her, "Are you a model?" And of course, her friend Thelma, um, which is like her best friend, told her about a modeling school. Cause she was like, "Girl, can you believe this man asked me was I a model?" You know, and she like, "What's up with him? Why are you asking me that?" And so, and by this time, she said she was about almost in her 30s, well past her model prime time, right? So her friend, he knew, her friend Thelma Jack knew someone that had a modeling school. Her name is Barbara Watson. She's the daughter of Judge Watson, as in James S. Watson, the first Black judge elected in New York City, and husband to Violet Lopez Watson, a founding member along with Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune of the National Council of Negro Women. In 1946, Barbara May Watson, the eldest of four, founded the first agency for African American models. So what she do? She went in and talked to her about being a model. She began modeling for catalogs and magazines. Okay. Because she wasn't tall enough, probably to be the other type of models. So she went for catalogs and magazines. And then Evelyn Davis saw her on page 128. Evelyn Davis saw her. Evelyn Davis is an actress. She said, "Who is that young lady who just sashayed out of here?" She said, "Because I just came from an interview for a movie," and she said, "and they are looking for a young lady who looks just like her to play the lead." A movie, when they called her, she said, "A movie? What are you talking about? A movie? Like, what are you talking about?" And so, yeah, it kind of started from there. And then when the lady called her, she said, "Listen, I don't know what you talking about making no movie. I'm not going no place making a fool out of myself." Click. She said, "No way was I going to get involved with the film business." But the lady kept pursuing her. "You should call the director. Call the director. Call. Go over there and meet the director. Go over there." And so, and she said, "Well, you better talk fast." She said, "I told her." She gave me the address. She went over to Carnegie Hall. The director name was Warren Coleman. And basically, that was it. That kind of moved her towards her acting career. But I'm just saying how she started off as typing, working in a law firm, went to a modeling agency just because somebody on the street said, "Are you a model?" Her friend knew somebody. And, it's just amazing how pieces come together, you know. And then she talked about finding your roots. Remember the show on what is it, PBS, Finding Your Roots? She said she finally, in the fall of 2019, I rang him and said, I'm ready. So the person that did, people don't know about Finding Your Roots, Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr., director of the Hutchins Center of African American Research at Harvard University, hosted an award-winning PBS documentary series called Finding Your Roots. Okay. So at this point, she wanted to find her own roots. And she finally called and said, I'm ready. I guess she wasn't ready before. She said, I'm ready now. And then she said, in Nevis, which is where she's from, most of my family's critical records have been lost during a fire. That remnants of any ancestry goes up in flames. Basically, all of her everything was lost. All of her roots and any type of ancestral background, all of that. When they did do the research, when he did begin the process, he came back and told her that most of her family's critical records had been lost during a fire. It had gone up in flames. So she said, I will never know why my mother's mother, Mary Jane Sargent, who was born in Barbados, left there on her own to settle in Nevis. So she just will never know. So that's heartbreaking. So yeah. Have anybody ever tried to go find their roots? Now go to ancestral.com. Any one of you ladies?
I
Any one of you
did
ladies?
African ancestry because that's the one that has the highest amount of genetic material for people of African descent, and they don't give you percentages. They give you um, country of origin and the people group who's most closely related that's has the same. I think they call it the haplogene pool that you have. So I did. I had my mom do it, the DNA swab back in 20 like 18 maybe, because at that time she was the oldest um in the matriarchal lineage. She was the oldest in our family. So she was about 80, I guess, when we did it. And ours came back as our country of origin was Cameroon, and our people groups were the Fulani people, the Hausa people, and the Tika people. So I just felt like that's the one that was going to give me the information I was looking for, because I didn't want to necessarily know what percentage it is, what percentage of that, but because we know we all have lots of percentages of everything because of, miscegenation and intermixing and all of that. However, we're still the original people. So my um, desire for getting this done was to find out what country we were from, or more than likely what country our people came from, and what people groups that we were closely associated with or share the same DNA.
All right.
I've done it too, but I travel a lot, but I did Ancestry DNA and I did 23andMe, and it did give you the percentage or whatever. But even that African thing, I really think is still a scam towards us here in America. And I say that because I didn't come to that conclusion until I went on a cruise ship, and the people there, they tell you what country they're from. And what they said, which I never done, it never dawned to me. They said we would never do that because we know our family and our roots. And they do, but we're lost and we don't know our family and our roots. So even with that African thing, they say they won't. There's no need for them to go and try to find their ancestors because they know where their ancestors are at, the ones who never left Africa. And it never dawned on me like this is just the biggest scam ever, because they know we want to know where we're from and however. But even Tawana, when you went on there, did it give you any relatives from Africa? Like
No,
who?
so that's not what it's from, and I want to address that.
Mm-hmm.
So they okay, so the other group, well, let me tell you first of all, and I don't have any investments or nothing like that in African
Mm-hmm.
ancestry, but I did meet the one of the founders,
Mm-hmm.
Regina Page,
Mm-hmm.
and she was very clear about what their purpose is for, is not to connect you with family members.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so her and Rick Kittles, the other founder, he was one of the ones that was very instrumental in reclassifying the bones that were found at the African slave burial site that's in New York that was
Mm-hmm.
uncovered back in the 90s. So
Mm-hmm.
he's a geneticist and he has collected. So they didn't go and get African people to do it to track their genetic lineage. They did it as a basis for us that wanted to find out. So they have over 30 something thousand different genetic specimens from
Mm-hmm.
different people all over the continent, because they want to be able to help connect people that have suffered, you know, um, from the transatlantic slave trade and cannot
Mm-hmm.
track back to their people groups. And that was their purpose. It's like, not many people will know if they're from Senegal or if they're from,
Mm-hmm.
because of course we know that there are 54 countries, but there's
Mm-hmm.
so many different people groups
Mm-hmm.
all over the continent
Mm-hmm.
that it would be really, really hard for you to say, oh, I'm Nigerian or I'm this or I'm that because of a particular area that you traced your, because okay, let me go back. My family started doing research. My cousins and stuff started doing research like back in the early, I would say the late 70s, early 80s, and they did it by way of just going to the um, archives and in their towns and stuff like that, and finding out. And this is in Mississippi, and finding out how far back that they can go. I mean, they're literally sitting there with like these little microfiche documents and stuff, tracing
Mm-hmm.
back who was connected to who, and whose grandmother this was and whose grandmother that was. So the furthest we were able to get back through that, through those means, were our great grandmother. Well, I'll say that she was 13 at the time the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. So
Mm-hmm.
that's as far back as we could go. But with that, one of my aunts, who isn't a blood aunt, she was married to my mom's brother. So this is all the same lineage, right? The matrilineal side. So she took it a step further and started connecting the dots as to like who those slave holders were and
Mm-hmm.
what ships they acquired those people from and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can't remember why she went to Ghana, but she went to Ghana, and this was like back in the early 80s. And she met a group of men and women from the Hausa tribe, and she was talking to them, and she said that just looking at them, seeing their facial features and the gap in their teeth and the shape of their lips and their nose and all that reminded her so much of her husband and his brothers, my uncles. So when
Mm-hmm.
she came back, she said, I know that you all have a connection to these people. She said, because they look just like your aunt and uncles. And
Mm-hmm.
when I did the genetic lineage with my mother, because she was the oldest one at the time, it wouldn't have mattered. I could have done it myself, but I just felt like it would be more relevant to everyone in the family if the oldest member of the family did it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we did that, and it came back that our lineage connected to we had the same, we shared DNA with the Tika, the Fulani, and the Hausa people. It was like a no brainer. I was like, well, damn, that's what she said 30,
Mm-hmm.
40 years ago, that,
Mm-hmm.
that these people look like us. So I I think that they've done a lot to try to discredit African ancestry
Well,
because
not
they're
I'm not
very.
discrediting them. I'm just saying.
No, 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 not you. I mean, but it's
Okay.
out there because I've heard that several times that, oh, they don't do that African ant. They just trying to get money. They just doing this.
All of them
And I,
are. All of
And
them speak to me,
I
and I said
said,
that because I'm talking to someone from Kenya or whatever, because
mm,
they was like, why would we ever do that? We know our family, and I'm like, oh,
mm,
okay, I never thought of that. But at the same
mm,
time, the reason I was like, I really wanted to do it because of roots. I really it was like, if
mm.
Alex Haley did it, sure, I can do it, but that hasn't been successful, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to
Well, the
see.
one reason why I was more inclined to connect with African ancestry, the company African ancestry, is because they were very transparent about
Mm-hmm.
what they were, who they were,
Mm-hmm.
there's like if you're looking for anything pertaining to health outcomes or like trying to connect to lost family members and stuff like that, that's not what we do. And they're the original. And I started out by saying that because of what they did for the African slave burial ground that's in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So they're one of the first companies to ever start tracking genetic material and ancestors for the purpose of us who are the lost ones here,
Mm-hmm.
throughout the diaspora. And they tell you the reason why their testing costs so much more is because they do not sell your genetic material. And all those other companies, 23andMe and African
Mm-hmm.
Ancestry and all them, they do share and sell your genetic material. And they said, no, we don't do that. We destroy it, we save it in our database, what it's connected to, and that's it. We do not sell your genetic material at all because we don't feel like that's right. That's unethical to do. So I was impressed by them, and that's why I did them, and that's why I kind of feel like they are ones that at least they're trying to help us connect the dots, and that's what it's
Mm-hmm.
about for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for that, Tawana. We have a real live story of someone that tried it, you and Yolanda. It's amazing. Okay. All right. So I wanted to say, I want just one thing I wanted to add to what I believe Yolanda said was that's what made Cicely Tyson, she when she did Roots. She said, as I see it, Roots resonated because it touched a nerve that runs far deeper than race, family identity. And it made her start thinking, what is my own family history? So that's what started her too after she did Roots, the movie. Yeah. I think that's probably when everybody else started wanting to, like, what's my roots? You know what I mean? So, like you said, it did it for you too. So, I mean, yeah, it's always something that'll just light that fire. Um, anybody else want to talk about the roots, finding your roots? Anybody else?
I have a cousin who actually did the research and she actually wrote a book, like an actual, binded book for the patriarchal side of my mother's father side of the family. I've not read it. There was a copy floating around somewhere, and I this conversation is making me think about like finding it, or at least calling her and getting another copy.
Yeah, I think so. That would be great. I
Hmm.
mean, we get on that page and then we forget, and then years go by. I mean,
Hmm.
you got to have something because we all getting older here, so at least something to pass down to the next generation, right?
Put the name
Um,
of that in the chat, Ari. Which one you used, so I can follow up with that.
Okay, will do. But I just
Thank you.
want to
Thank
say
you.
something about the movie Roots. Roots itself, back in the day when we were growing up, and the original Roots, it was really very impactful. And because a lot of us did not know anything about, Africa as, what we thought it was because of all the negative, stereotypical information that surrounded it. So I just, it did. And I think I was maybe 9 when it came out, 9 or 10. I know I was in grammar school, like maybe third or fourth grade. But I remember it, and it just really helped me to um, be more inquisitive and prouder about our heritage and our legacy. Just seeing that, we didn't originate as, as people that were enslaved. So I think that started me on a path of just more, just being inquiring more about who we are, who we were, and who we are, and where our people came from, and how we got here.
Yeah, I think we all should start doing it. Even the people that's listening, us as well, people out there. Hey, going on the ancestral African Ancestry.com and find your roots. Let that be something that, like I say, you pass down to your kids, your grandkids, great grand. You know what I mean? You gotta start somewhere. Um, all right. So we all know, well, no, I'm not gonna say we all know. That's wrong. Cicely Tyson and Miles Davis went together. They not only went together, but they married each other. Okay. I didn't even know who Miles Davis was. I am gonna say have to just tell y'all for some reason my mind kept thinking BB King.
I didn't know they were a couple, but and I also didn't know that was the lover of life because it seemed like that's all she can talk. She ain't talk about Kenneth.
Baby,
She
hell
didn't talk about
no.
Kenneth.
She ain't, baby, when she left Kenneth, that was it.
It
Okay?
was
When she
like I'm like, let me go back. I had to go back and look because she still talked about us even
baby,
till he died.
Kenneth was like, my baby at? I don't even know if she even let him see her baby, his daughter anymore. But baby, when she met Val, they became friends, and she really wasn't even feeling him because remember he was married to somebody, so she was looking like, yeah, no,
Mhm.
I know you married, get on, bruh. But yeah, she got with Miles Davis. I had to Google him, and I'm like, okay, I knew the name, but for some reason I kept thinking BB King, and I'm like, let me type who is Miles Davis. But yeah, they went together for a long time, and she went. I mean, whoo, she told it all, everything you needed to know about Miles Davis. But that was, yeah, that was the love of her life. She took care of him. She loved him so much, baby. She brought him back to life, literally, brought him back to life. He was on his way out of here. But yeah, so eventually they got married. She said on here during the holidays around my birthday in 1979, he again asked me to marry him. This time, probably because he worn me down. Maybe by her saying no so many times, she finally said yes. And food for thought, they got married at the Cosby House. Bill Cosby and Camille, yes, they did. On what? Thanksgiving Day. She was like, now, how that's gonna look? I'm getting married on thing. I'm gonna call over there to Bill and say, yeah, thanks for the invite to Thanksgiving. Thanks for inviting us over for Thanksgiving. But can I get married at your house that day too? That's exactly how it happened. And of course, Bill said yes. And not only did he say yes, well, no, first of all, he said, I gotta ask Camille first. I gotta ask my wife. That's how you supposed to do it. Let me ask my wife first. And eventually she said yes. And not only did they have the marriage there or the wedding there, but he also presented them with rings. Bill Cosby bought their rings, both of them. So yeah, I thought that was so sweet. And she did have say she did ask her sister for her mother's ring, but she ended up couldn't find it the day of the wedding. She was tore up the bedroom looking for that. Like, I had this ring on the dresser. Where is it? And she said eventually it was symbolic that the reason she went, because she eventually found the ring. And she said, yeah, her mom she wanted to at least have her mom with her because by this time her mom had passed on, right? And she stated that yeah, she said the band something about her mom didn't want to, I guess, didn't knew what she was possibly about to get into with this marriage, and she just didn't, wasn't approval, haven't didn't want her approval of it. So that's why, like, her mom mysteriously like lost the ring or just couldn't find it, or she didn't want her to like wear that ring with her while she got married. So, but she said she realized that later on.
And
Okay,
so the mayor of Atlanta officiated their wedding. I forget his name. The Reverend.
yeah. I don't know who the reverend was. Was it the reverend of the church? Who was he that
Yeah,
married
but
them?
he became the mayor of Atlanta. I forget his name.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that, she got married on the Cosby house. I thought that was pretty cool. Um She talked about relationships. She said relationships are knitted together by need. I thought that was a powerful sentence. Relationships are knitted together by need. And she stated that love, however, is often not born of logic. It is birthed by need. So yeah, those were two powerful sentences for me, relating to relationships and all of that.
It was
Um,
Andrew Young. That was who it
oh,
was.
Andrew Young. Oh
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and she was just around so many, of course. And by that time, she was big into the movie industry and all that. So she knew all these people. So just going over Bill Cosby house was nothing. Going over Diane Carroll house, they were best friends. That's nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing. And she said she was actually I think she said she admired Mal Davis when he first saw her. Because he lived in the building with Diane Carroll. And he just happened, he popped over the house one day, knocked on the door, asking for some damn sugar. Okay. He's asking for some, and he was like, "Well, who was that lady right there?" And she was like, "Oh, that's Cicely Tyson," but she was still in the beginners of her acting career and all that, so he didn't really quite know who she was. But yeah, she talked about Nelson Mandela. One fun fact she told us about him was that I did not know. Of course, we knew he was in jail, and she said not long after Mandela's release from prison in 1990, I met him and the vibrant Winnie, which is his wife, in South Africa. I'd even stood in the 8 by 7 foot concrete cell at Robben Island, where Nelson spent 18 of his 27 years in captivity. Nelson slept on the hard floor for all his years in prison. There was a bed, but he chose to sleep on the floor all those years. Can you imagine? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Miles ended up passing away at 65. She and him had been broken up by then. She had walked away, and yeah, he passed away at 65. She never saw Women of Brewster Place until 20 years later. She did not like watching her movies. That was not her thing. All the movies she made,
Speaking of Mal
I think.
Davis, not to cut you
No, go
off,
ahead. No, go.
she well, he was cheating on her, but the thing is, I don't know why she married him, and he was a cheater. But I'm gonna leave that alone. But go ahead.
Mm-mm. She explained why she even got with him. She said a lot of people want to know, like, how on earth did these two get together? She said that on 312. A lot of people want to know how on earth did these two get together. And she explained that about how she wanted to rescue somebody and he needed to be rescued. So it kind of worked that way. That was the
Rescued or not, he was a cheater when she met him,
yeah, but they were
and
friends for a very
they were
long time.
friends. But he still was a cheater. And even when she broke up before they got married, he was a cheater. They got married, he still was a cheater. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. Yeah.
But she still love him. You can't stop who you love. You love who you love, and that's it. But she said that was her love of her life. But it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I thought that was quite interesting that she didn't watch her movies. As much as we loved her and watched her movies, she just couldn't do it. She like, I do not like watching my movies. Nope. And she said she just happened to catch Women of Brewster Place one day on BET. And she said she happened to watch it and she told Oprah about it, and Oprah was like, "What?" She said occasionally, um, hold on, let me see what page that's on. 343. Mhm. Yeah, she said 2 decades later, I happened to catch it on one evening on BET and mesmerized by the plot line. I cried from start to finish. I called Oprah afterwards and said, "Boy, that Women of Brewster Place was something." And Broker said, she said, "What?" That Cicely said, "What a fabulous piece of work." The phone line went silent for a minute. Oprah said, "You mean you never seen it?" She asked in disbelief. Cicely said, "No," I told her, "but I finally caught the rerun." And then she said, "Oh, Cicely," cracking up, "what can I tell you? 20 years later, it's still better than ever." So yeah, she never saw it. And then one of her friends had to sit her down to watch Jane Pittman movie. She said when it came on, she ran out the kitchen, ran out the room. Her friend said, you finna come in here and watch this. You gonna sit down and you gonna watch this movie. And that's how she saw Jane Pittman movies. But yeah, she did not like to watch her stuff. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But it happens. You don't want to see yourself on screen. I get it. And she said once she put it out there, that's it. She don't want to, because you probably want to critique yourself and I look like this. I should have said this. Look at that. You see all these other things that people don't know about. She had her nickname in the family was Aunt Boo Boo. We're gonna close soon. Her nickname was Aunt Boo Boo, and which is quite funny, right? So she went to an award show one day, and she asked her great nephew to accompany her. And trying to see what award show it was. It was a really big one too. Um, I can't think of it right now. But anywho, she asked her great nephew to accompany her at this award show. And he walks in. Oh, it was the Kennedy Center Honors. That's what it was. And it's the Kennedy Center ceremony. And her great nephew, was looking for her in the lobby, right? She said he came on his own, and when he arrived, he set out to find me in the crowd. He yelled, Boo Boo. She said, I suddenly heard ring out. I heard him sing that name, ring it out over the lobby. Where are you? Boo Boo, where you at? She said, I cut my hand in my mouth in embarrassment, squelching, laughing as I scanned the room to find him. I knew it had to be Devin. She said ever since then, her sister's daughter, Verna, began calling me Boo Boo. The family had joined the chorus, so everybody started doing it. But it was just hilarious to me when he came up in that award show with all these famous people looking for his aunt, Cicely Tyson, and he called her Boo Boo in front of everybody. I don't know if everybody heard him, but that's what he called her. She said, I heard that name. That gotta be him. Baby, family don't care about where you at, who you with. They will call you by your nickname in front of anybody, and they don't care. But yeah, so two things I wanted to leave with the people before we close. Did anyone have anything else to talk about with Cecily before we close the discussion today? I just got two more things to say, but you all can talk if y'all have something to say too.
Hey, I don't have anything else, but my grandchildren want to say hi, and especially you, Tynesha, because they remembered you from the here. Hold on.
Hello, beautiful kids. How y'all doing?
Happy Easter.
We what? Happy
Easter.
Easter.
She said y'all was eating a lot together at the block party.
Yeah, we was.
Oh, yeah, that's my little friend. Hey,
Yes.
girl. Hey, we
They just
sure
wanted to
was,
say
baby. We was
hi.
tearing that food up.
It's funny your new book plans are reading.
Ah, I can't believe she remember that, baby. Kids don't forget none because I'm looking like, what? We was eating together. Where? Baby, she said that block party. Oh, she is not playing. We kept going back to that table. Girl.
That's what she said, girl. He said, "Oh, that's your," because they was looking at my phone. When are you going to be off, G-Ma? How long is this book club? When have you been on it a long time? And then she looked at me and she said, "Wait, that's the lady that took us, the little lady that took us in the block club, and we ate so much together."
She is absolutely correct, baby. We sure did. Oh, it's so sweet. I love to see little kids. I love your grandkids anyway. You know that. But she just threw me off real quick, girl, with that. Cause baby, I just went back and had a flashback, baby. We was tearing up that food. We was tearing it up. Anywho. Um, okay. So on page 396, she left us with something that I thought was so profound. She said, what's for you in this life, you will get. And what is not for you, you will never get. That's what her mom always told her. from since she was a kid. She would come on and be, man, I didn't get the job. Man, they didn't hire me. Ooh, I didn't get the role. I didn't get whatever. Her mom told her, what's for you in this life, you will get. And what is not for you, you will never get. So I just want that to be something that people hold on and just remember when things don't happen in life that you want to happen, and just know that. Also, she said, was this a question that I wanted to share with everyone? She stated that people are always asking her when she got older, what legacy do you want to leave? Folks are always asking me, what legacy do I want to leave? What roots beneath my soul I must hope will outlive me? I want to go home knowing that I loved generously, even if imperfectly. I want to feel as if I embodied our humanity so fully that it made us laugh and weep. That has reminded us of our shared frailties. I want to be recalled as one who squared my shoulders in the service of Black women, as one who made us walk taller and envision greater for ourselves. I want to know that I did the very best that I could with what God gave me, just as I am. So, on that note, I just want to end the discussion on today. It was quite long, but this was a good one as always. And this is definitely a legend. So, this discussion will definitely go down in the books. And like I say, that pretty much will be it for the rest of the day. We don't have anything else to talk about. I hope to see you all at the next book club in a couple weeks. So we got another book we got to get into, and then that'll be the last one for the season. All right. So it was good to see all of you ladies. Thank you all for joining us, and you all have a wonderful day. Bye.
Just
Bye.
bye.
Bye, kids. Bye, lovies. All right. Peace out.